Route 44. I think Chapter 1. Dispatch, 5:47 a.m. I think the yard smells the same as it always has. Diesel and cold concrete. A faint ghost of something burnt, coming off the engine bays. It is not a pleasant smell, not by any objective measure, but it is mine. And this morning, I breathe it in longer than usual. The way you linger at a doorway when you know you won't be coming back through it. My name is Oscar Beaumont. I am 65 years old, and I drove, I suppose, though that word in the past tense still sits wrong in my mouth. Route 44, Crestwood Depot to Millfield Common, 41 stops, 72 minutes on a clean run. I have done this run, or a version of it, for 30 years, 10,950 days, give or take, leap years included. The bus is waiting for me in Bay 7, a newer one, which I find oddly insulting. The old 44 had a heater that only worked above 40 miles per hour, and a windscreen wiper on the driver's side that hesitated like a man, clearing his throat before bad news before each sweep. You get used to things. Then they take those things away and call it an upgrade. Morning, Oscar. That's young Elia from Dispatch, barely 23, wearing a high-vis vest 2 sizes too large. He hands me my final trip sheet without ceremony. He doesn't know it's my last day. I didn't tell anyone. The supervisors know, of course. There'll be a card in the break room later, and someone will have bought a supermarket cake with my name, spelled wrong, on it. There is always a supermarket cake. The name is always spelled wrong. Morning, Elia. I take the trip sheet. My handwriting on the sign-on log is, if I say so myself, excellent. 30 years of signing in will do that. I climb up into the cab. The seat receives me. I adjust the mirror slightly left, always slightly left, because the mirror bracket has been bent that way since 2019, and nobody has fixed it. And I sit for a moment in the dark, quiet of the bus before the first passenger boards. Outside, the sky is doing that particular thing it does on autumn mornings, where the darkness softens, without quite becoming light. The street lamps are still on. A fox trots across the far end of the yard, unhurried and contemptuous, as foxes always are. I've seen that fox, or foxes indistinguishable from it, 1,000 times. Maybe it's the same one. Maybe foxes live longer than you'd think. I start the engine. Chapter 2. Early stops. Or maybe the first passengers at Crestwood Depot are always the same sort. The ones who go to work before the world is awake. Cleaners. Security guards. A nurse in scrubs who reads a paperback so worn the cover is entirely gone. She has been reading it for 3 weeks. I have given up trying to identify it. This morning she boards, taps a pass, and takes her usual. Seat 3rd row. Left side without looking up. Her name, I learned once from a conversation she had on her phone, is Cecilia. She never uses the priority seats, even when the bus is empty. And I respect that about a person. Cold this morning, I say, because this is what I say to Cecilia every morning. And she responds as she always does. She turns a page. It's practically a friendship. The second stop brings Tobias, who is 71 and has never, in 5 years, been able to operate his phone to show his bus pass without a small drama. Today he holds it upside down, squints at it, flips it, squints again, and presents it to the reader sideways. It'll read it from any angle, I tell him. That's what I've been telling my daughter, he says, sounding personally vindicated. She says I overthink it. She's right. And you're also right, I say. They're not mutually exclusive. He considers this with great seriousness and takes his seat. By the time we reach the junction at Harker Lane, the bus is filling in the familiar way seats, taken in the particular order that regular passengers follow, as if by written agreement. The window seat before the rear doors. The aisle, seat 3 rows from the front. No one next to each other until necessity demands it. It is the grammar of public transport, and it is one I know by heart. A man I don't recognize boards at stop 7. Late 30s, good coat, carrying a coffee cup that cost more than I made per hour when I started on the buses. He sits down without looking up from his phone. I watch him in the mirror. He never once glances out the window. That always makes me a little sad, I confess. The window is the whole point. We pass the old shoe repair shop that closed during the pandemic and became a cafe, and then became empty again. We pass the park where, in 23 years, I have seen one proposal, 4 arguments, and a man teaching a golden retriever to catch a frisbee with such patience and optimism that I still think about it sometimes. We pass the bus stop where a young woman once went into labor, right there on the pavement, and I pulled over and got on the radio and held her hand while we waited, and she told me between breaths that she was going to name the baby something beginning with B. I never found out what. I hope it was a good name. I hope the baby is doing well. Doing well would make them about 17 now. Chapter 3. Midway. Or maybe the Route 44 passes through 3 distinct neighborhoods, each with its own particular flavor. And after 3 decades, I can feel the transitions in my shoulders. Crestwood is quiet and slightly grim, the terraced houses pressed together like people on a cold platform. Fenwick, the middle stretch, is where the money started, arriving about 15 years ago, and you can see the palimpsest of it. The original corner shop that became an artisan deli, the pub that became a wine bar, that became a yoga studio. The buses got fuller through Fenwick. The conversations got shorter. Millfield, at the far end, is the one I love best. It is neither prosperous nor especially poor, just lived in, like a jacket that fits. The market runs on Thursdays. People say hello to each other on the pavement. The community center has a banner that has been advertising a quiz night for so long. The date on it is now historical. At the Fenwick stop, a woman named Vivian boards. I know her name because she has, over 8 years, had approximately 600 phone calls on my bus, each one conducted at the full volume usually reserved for sporting events. I know about her sister's difficult marriage, her son's gap year, which extended to a gap decade, her feelings about property prices, and a medical situation involving her lower back that I understand better than most GPs probably do. I have never spoken to Vivienne beyond the transactional. She has never spoken to me, and yet I know her completely. Today she is not on her phone. She sits and looks out the window, and the expression on her face is one I cannot quite read. Something tired, something soft. I wonder if she's all right. I will never know. This is the strange intimacy of the job. You see people in their genuine, unguarded state. The commute is when people stop performing, and then they step off and become strangers again. I have watched people weep quietly. I have watched people fall asleep on each other's shoulders, complete strangers, and jerk awake at their stop and never acknowledge it. I have watched a man eat an entire roast chicken from a bag at 7:15 in the morning, and he did it with such focused solemnity that I could not find it in myself to judge him. At the stop outside Fenwick Library, a girl of about 12 boards alone. She's carrying a violin case that's nearly as big as she is, and she sways slightly with the weight of it as she taps her card. She takes the seat behind me, and after a moment, she says, very quietly, as if telling me a secret, "I have a recital today." "Is that right?" I say. "I've practiced for months." "Then you'll be fine." A pause. The bus sways over the speed bumps on Cantor Road. "What if I'm not fine?" "Then you'll have practiced for months," I say, "and that still counts for something. Playing it badly in public is still further along than playing it perfectly in your bedroom." I can see her in the mirror, thinking about this. "My dad says the same sort of thing," she says. "Your dad sounds sensible." "He's all right," she says, in the tone of someone granting a significant concession. She gets off at the stop before Millfield Common. Violin case, bumping the door frame on her way out. I watch her go, small and determined and terrified. 30 years of these moments, and they never stop landing. Chapter 4. Penultimate stop. There is a man who has ridden my bus every weekday for as long as I can remember. I don't know his name. I've never asked, and he's never offered. He boards at the same stop, the one by the post office on Clement Street, always at the same time, always with the same cloth shopping bag, always wearing a corduroy jacket in navy that has softened from years of washing into something closer to blue-gray. He has the look of a man who was once a teacher, though that may be entirely my imagination. I call him Professor in my head, just to myself. Today the professor boards, and as he taps his card, he does something he has never done before in all the years I can account for. He stops. He looks at me. Really looks. The way people almost never do. And he says, "You've been driving this route a long time." It is not a question. 30 years, I say. He nods slowly, as if this confirms something he has suspected. "I've been riding it 22. "I know," I say. And then, because it seems too strange to explain, I add only, "You've a distinctive jacket." He looks down at it, touches the lapel with 2 fingers. "My wife bought it for me. She died, about," he calculates, 19 years ago now. I'm sorry. Chapter 5. Millfield Common. Final stop. I think we pull in at 23 minutes past 8. 3 minutes late, which is practically punctual by any honest measure. The morning has gone gray and soft, the kind of light that makes everything look like a memory. The passengers peel off at their stops and disappear into their days. I think of Cecilia, gone now at the hospital stop, still reading. Tobias, who got off at the market and bought a newspaper from the stand before the bus had even pulled away. The girl with the violin, Madeline, I decide, giving her a name for myself because she deserves one. Somewhere up ahead in a school hall, rosining her bow. The professor got off at the penultimate stop, as always. He folded his paper, replaced it in his cloth bag, and as he stepped down, he paused on the bottom step and looked back at me. He didn't say anything. He nodded once, the way men of a certain era nod when words would be excessive. And then he was gone into the street. I watched him go longer than I should have. At Millfield Common, the last passenger boards. An elderly woman, older than me, which at 65, I am still slightly surprised to notice, wearing a coat the color of old roses. She moves carefully down the aisle and settles herself in the seat directly behind the driver's cab. The worst seat on the bus, the one that faces forward and gives you the full vibration of the engine. No one chooses it voluntarily. She taps her card. I wait for her to settle. "Not going anywhere," I say. because Millfield Common is the terminus, the end of the line. She'll have to wait while I fill in the log and then ride back to depot on the empty bus. I know, she says pleasantly. I just like riding the bus. I look at her in the mirror. She has the face of someone who has survived most things and arrived at a place past surprise. She smiles at me, not the social smile, but a real one, with the eyes involved. Been doing this route long? She asks. I laugh. It comes out fuller than I expected. Today's my last day, I say. 30 years. Oh my, she says. She seems genuinely moved by this, in the way that older people sometimes are, as if they have more room for other people's milestones. How does it feel? I consider this properly, the way the question deserves. Outside, a pigeon lands on the bench at the stop. A man in a high-vis vest cycles past. Somewhere a dog is being walked by someone who is being walked by the dog. Like the end of a long book, I say finally. You don't want it to be over, but you're glad you read it. She considers this. My husband drove lorries, she says. Long haul. He retired and lasted about 6 months before he started volunteering to drive the village minibus. She pauses. People like you don't stop needing roads. Maybe, I say. Elaine's list surfaces in my mind. Portugal. Edinburgh. The raised beds. Or maybe the roads just change shape a bit. She approves of this. I can tell. I fill in the log. I make my last entry in my reliably excellent handwriting. I sign off with the date and the time and my driver number, which I have had for 30 years and which I will hand back to the depot this afternoon, along with my ID badge and my spare set of keys. Then I sit for a moment, engine idling, in the quiet of the bus. The woman in the rose-colored coat is looking out the window, perfectly content. She has nowhere to be and seems to have made a philosophy of it. I think of all of them. Cecilia and her book. Tobias and his phone. The professor. With Elaine's, no, not Elaine's, his wife's jacket. Still worn faithfully after 19 years. Vivienne, with her uncharacteristic silence. Young Madeline and her violin, walking into her recital with all those months of practice behind her, like a following wind. The commuter who never looked up from his phone. The woman who once waved every morning from the 3rd floor. The man who ate roast chicken at dawn. Martin, who bought me tea until my hands were steady. The woman at stop 18, who took a call at full volume every morning for 8 years, and who sat, this morning, quietly, looking out at the city passing. A whole neighborhood, carried from one end to the other and back again, day after day, nobody knowing anybody, and all of us entirely familiar. I put the bus in park. Right, I say, to no one in particular, or to all of them, the ones who boarded and alighted over 30 years, who are, in some sense, still here in the creak of the seats, the smudge of 10,000 hands on the poles, the faint collective warmth of a bus that has carried human beings through cold mornings and late nights and ordinary Tuesdays without number. Right, I say again, quietly. The woman in the rose coat doesn't look away from the window, but she says, as gently as if she'd been listening all along, "Take your time." So I do.